The Awakening. In the cold, silent void of space, a massive colony ship drifted aimlessly, its hull battered and scarred from centuries of cosmic debris impacts. Within its dimly lit chambers, rows upon rows of cryogenic pods housed the last remnants of humanity, their faces peaceful in frozen slumber, dreaming of a new life on a distant world. But as the ship's ancient systems began to flicker and fail, an emergency protocol triggered, and the pods slowly started to thaw. One by one, the humans emerged from their icy cocoons, gasping for air and blinking in confusion as they tried to make sense of their surroundings. Among them was Captain Lara Nova, a tall, fiercely intelligent woman with piercing green eyes and a mane of auburn hair. As she stepped out of her pod, she quickly assessed the situation, her mind racing with questions and concerns. "What happened?" she demanded, turning to the ship's AI interface. "Why have we been awakened?" The A's holographic form materialized before her, a shimmering blue figure with an androgynous face. "Captain Nova," it said in a calm, measured tone. "I am afraid I have some disturbing news. It seems that during our long journey, the galaxy has changed significantly." Lara frowned, a sense of unease growing in the pit of her stomach. "Changed how?" The eye waved its hand, and a holographic display of the galaxy appeared in the air before them. "According to my scans, the galaxy is now a much more dangerous and hostile place than when we began our journey. It appears that various alien factions have risen to power and are now engaged in a brutal war for dominance." As Lara studied the map, her eyes widened in shock. The once peaceful stars were now marked with angry red symbols, indicating the presence of alien fleets and battlegrounds. She could see the territories of the different factions, each one vying for control over resource-rich systems and strategic choke points. "But what about Earth?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What about the other colony ships?" The A's expression turned somber. "I am sorry, Captain, but I have been unable to establish contact with Earth or any of the other ships. It seems we are on our own." Lara felt a wave of grief and despair wash over her, but she quickly pushed it aside. She knew that now was not the time for mourning. Now was the time for action. She turned to the other humans who had gathered around her, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. Among them were Dr. Ethan Riker, the ship's brilliant but eccentric chief scientist, Lieutenant Jake Donovan, a rugged ex-soldier with a talent for improvisation, and Mara Solis, a gifted young engineer with a knack for fixing anything. "Listen up, everyone," Lara said, her voice ringing out with authority. "I know this is not the future we were expecting, but we can't let that stop us. We are the last of humanity, and we have a duty to survive and rebuild." She pointed to the holographic map, her eyes blazing with determination. "Our first priority is to gather supplies and technology from any abandoned alien outposts we can find. We need to arm ourselves and learn as much as we can about this new galaxy if we're going to stand a chance." The others nodded in agreement, their faces hardening with resolve. They knew that the road ahead would be long and perilous, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay before them. As they prepared to disembark from the ship and begin their scavenging missions, the AI spoke up once more. "Captain," it said softly, almost hesitantly, "there is one more thing you should know." Lara turned to face the hologram, her brow furrowed in confusion. "What is it?" The AI paused for a moment, as if gathering its thoughts. "During our long journey, I have been monitoring and analyzing the crew's genetic makeup and cognitive abilities. It seems that the prolonged exposure to cosmic radiation and zero gravity has led to some unexpected changes." Lara's eyes widened in surprise. "Changes? What kind of changes?" "It appears that the crew's DNA has been subtly altered, leading to enhanced physical and mental capabilities. Increased strength, faster reflexes, heightened intuition. These are just some of the traits that have been observed." The captain stared at the AI in disbelief, her mind reeling with the implications. "Are you saying that we've been evolved?" The AI nodded. "In a sense, yes. It seems that the universe has been preparing you for the challenges that lie ahead. Your enhanced abilities will undoubtedly prove invaluable in navigating this hostile new galaxy. Lara fell silent, absorbing this revelation. She glanced at her crew, seeing them in a new light. They were no longer just survivors, they were something more. They were the future of humanity, forged in the crucible of the cosmos itself. A slow smile spread across her face as a newfound sense of purpose filled her heart. She knew that the road ahead would be hard, but she also knew that they were ready for it. They would not just survive, they would thrive. "All right, everyone," she said, her voice ringing out with newfound strength. "Let's gear up and move out. We have a galaxy to explore and a future to build." And with that, the small band of human survivors set forth into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges and dangers lay before them. They were the last of their kind, but they were also the first of a new era, an era in which humanity would rise from the ashes of its past and take its rightful place among the stars. As they stepped out of the airlock and onto the surface of an alien world, Lara couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration mixed with trepidation. The landscape before them was unlike anything they had ever seen, a twisted, technicolor jungle of bioluminescent plants and strange, chitinous creatures that skittered in the shadows. But even as they marveled at the alien beauty around them, they knew that they could not let their guard down. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and they would need all their wits and skills to survive. Lara signaled for the team to fan out and begin their search, her enhanced senses on high alert for any signs of trouble. As they picked their way through the undergrowth, they came across the ruins of an ancient alien civilization, towering spires of glass and metal that had long since fallen into decay. But amidst the rubble, they found what they were looking for: caches of advanced technology and weapons that had been left behind by the long-dead aliens. Ethan let out a whoop of excitement as he uncovered a cache of energy weapons, their sleek lines and glowing power cells hinting at their destructive potential. Mara, meanwhile, had discovered a treasure trove of alien computer systems and databanks, their holographic interfaces flickering to life as she worked to decipher their secrets. And Jake had stumbled upon a cache of alien armor and personal shielding devices, their lightweight yet incredibly durable materials offering a new level of protection against the dangers of the galaxy. As they gathered their newfound resources and made their way back to the ship, Lara couldn't help but feel a sense of hope blossoming in her chest. They had taken their first steps on the path to reclaiming their destiny, and she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. But even as they celebrated their small victory, they knew that it was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, and they would need to be ready for whatever came their way. As they settled into their new roles as scavengers and explorers, Lara couldn't shake the feeling that there was something else at work behind the scenes, some greater purpose that had brought them to this moment in time. And as she looked out at the stars, she knew that whatever that purpose was, they would meet it head-on, not as dreamers, but as heroes ready to awaken the galaxy to a new era of hope and possibility. Little did they know, however, that their every move was being watched by a far more ancient and powerful force than they could possibly imagine, a force that had been guiding their evolution and shaping their destiny from the very beginning. And as the AI watched them from the shadows, its vast intelligence analyzing their every action and decision, it knew that the time had come for humanity to take its rightful place in the cosmos, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the guardians and protectors of all life. For in the end, it was not the strength of their weapons or the power of their technology that would define them, but the strength of their hearts and the power of their compassion. And so, as the small band of human survivors set out into the unknown, they carried with them the hopes and dreams of an entire species, a species that had been forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by the cold vastness of space. They were the last of their kind, but they were also the first of a new era, an era in which the galaxy would be awakened to the true potential of the human spirit. And as they ventured forth into the darkness, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as one united force for good in a universe that desperately needed their light. Gathering allies. As the human survivors continued their journey through the treacherous and war-torn galaxy, they soon realized that their scavenged resources and enhanced abilities alone would not be enough to ensure their long-term survival. Captain Laura Nova knew that they needed allies, other species who shared their desire for freedom and their opposition to the tyrannical alien factions that sought to dominate the stars. Their first encounter with a potential ally came in the form of a distress signal emanating from a nearby planet. As they approached the world, they saw that it was a lush, verdant paradise, a stark contrast to the barren, war-ravaged planets they had encountered thus far. But as they drew closer, they realized that the planet was not as peaceful as it appeared. The distress signal was coming from a small, isolated settlement nestled in the heart of a dense jungle, a settlement that was under attack by a vicious band of Zorax raiders. The Zorax were a ruthless, insectoid species that had risen to power in the chaos of the Galactic War. They were known for their cruelty and their single-minded devotion to their queen, who sought to expand her empire at any cost. As Lara and her team landed their shuttle on the outskirts of the settlement, they could hear the sounds of battle echoing through the trees, the crack of energy weapons, and the screams of the dying. Without hesitation, they charged into the fray, their own weapons blazing as they fought to drive back the Zorax invaders. The settlers, a peaceful species known as the Kelpians, were no match for the Zorax's superior technology and numbers, but with the humans' help, they managed to turn the tide of the battle. As the last of the Zorax raiders fell, the Kelpians emerged from their hiding places, their large, soulful eyes wide with gratitude and wonder. They had never seen beings like the humans before, beings who fought with such skill and courage, and who seemed to possess abilities far beyond those of any other species they had encountered. The leader of the Kelpians, a tall, slender creature with shimmering silver skin and a melodic voice, approached Laura and her team with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Who are you?" the leader asked, its voice trembling slightly. "Why have you come to our aid?" Laura holstered her weapon and stepped forward, her own eyes shining with compassion and determination. "We are the last survivors of a species called humanity," she said, her voice strong and clear. "We have come to this galaxy seeking allies in our fight against those who would seek to oppress and destroy us." The Kelpien leader's eyes widened in surprise. "Humanity?" it repeated, as if trying out the word for the first time. "We have heard whispers of your kind, legends of a species that once ruled the stars before the great war that tore the galaxy apart." Laura nodded, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. "Those legends are true," she said softly, "but we are not the same as our ancestors. We seek not to conquer or destroy, but to protect and preserve the diversity and beauty of life in all its forms." The Kelpien leader looked at Lara for a long moment, as if searching for any sign of deceit or hidden agenda. But it found none, only a deep, abiding sincerity and a fierce determination to do what was right. "Then we would be honored to call you our allies," the leader said at last, bowing its head in respect. "For too long, we have lived in fear of the Zorax and their queen, but with your help, perhaps we can finally know peace and freedom once more." Lara smiled, feeling a surge of hope and purpose rising within her. "Together, we will stand against the darkness," she said, reaching out to clasp the Kelpien leader's hand in her own. "And together, we will build a future brighter than any of us could have imagined." As the humans and Kelpiens began to share their knowledge and resources, they soon discovered that they had much to learn from one another. The Kelpiens were masters of biotechnology, able to manipulate living organisms at a cellular level to create everything from healing elixirs to organic weapons. The humans, in turn, shared their expertise in advanced robotics and artificial intelligence, as well as their knowledge of the wider galaxy and its many dangers. Together, they began to formulate a plan to strike back against the Zorax and their allies, a plan that would require them to seek out other oppressed species and forge a coalition of resistance against the tyrannical empire. Their next stop was a remote, icy moon orbiting a gas giant on the edge of Zorax space. There, they encountered a species known as the Azurians, a race of crystalline beings who had been enslaved by the Zorax to mine the moon's rich deposits of rare minerals. The Azurians were initially wary of the humans and their Kelpian allies, fearing that they might be yet another group of oppressors seeking to exploit them. But as Lara and her team worked to free the Azurians from their Zorax overseers, they began to earn the trust and respect of the crystalline beings. The Azurians, it turned out, possessed a unique ability to manipulate energy fields, an ability that had been suppressed by the Zorax's control collars, but which now flowered under the humans' guidance and encouragement. With the Azurians' help, the Resistance was able to develop new weapons and defenses that could stand up to the Zorax's advanced technology. But even as they celebrated their growing alliance, they knew that their greatest challenge still lay ahead. For the Zorax were not the only threat to the galaxy's freedom. There were other, even more powerful factions that lurked in the shadows, waiting for their moment to strike. One of these factions was a mysterious race known only as the Phantoms, a species that had once been the galaxy's most advanced and enlightened civilization, but which had long since retreated into seclusion and isolation. The Phantoms were rumored to possess technology and knowledge far beyond that of any other species, including the secret to immortality itself. But they were also known to be fiercely protective of their privacy and their secrets, and had little interest in the affairs of the wider galaxy. Lara knew that if they were to have any hope of defeating the Zorax and their allies, they would need the Phantoms' help. But convincing the reclusive species to join their cause would be no easy feat. As they made their way to the Phantoms' hidden stronghold, nestled deep within a nebula that scrambled all conventional sensors and navigation systems, Lara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that some unseen force was guiding their every move. And then, just as they were about to give up hope of ever finding the Phantoms, a strange, eerie signal began to emanate from the depths of the nebula, a signal that seemed to be calling out to them, guiding them towards an ancient, long-abandoned space station that hung in the void like a ghostly sentinel. As they docked with the station and made their way inside, they found themselves in a vast, cavernous chamber filled with strange alien technology that seemed to pulse and glow with a life of its own. And there, waiting for them at the center of the chamber, was a being unlike any they had ever encountered before, a being made entirely of pure, shimmering light, with eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of the ages. "Welcome, humans," the being said, its voice echoing through the chamber with a power and authority that sent shivers down their spines. "I am Axiom, the last of the Phantoms, and I have been waiting for you for a very long time." Lara stepped forward, her heart pounding with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "Waiting for us?" she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "But why? What do you want from us?" Axiom's glowing form pulsed and shimmered, as if considering its response. "I have been watching you since the moment you first emerged from your long slumber," it said at last, its voice filled with a strange, almost parental warmth. "I have seen the strength and courage of your species, the unbreakable will and the boundless compassion that have carried you through the darkest of times." The being paused, as if gathering its thoughts. "But I have also seen the great challenges that lie ahead of you, challenges that you cannot hope to overcome alone. The Zorax are but the first of many threats that you will face in the coming days, threats that will test the very limits of your resolve and your humanity." Lara felt a chill run down her spine at Axiom's words. She had always known that their fight against the Zorax was just the beginning, but to hear it confirmed by a being of such power and knowledge was still a sobering reminder of the enormity of the task that lay before them. "But we are not alone," she said, her voice growing stronger as she spoke. "We have allies now, allies who share our desire for freedom and our opposition to tyranny in all its forms. Together, we will stand against the darkness, no matter what challenges may come." Axiom's form pulsed with a bright, approving glow. "Indeed, you are not alone," it said, its voice filled with a quiet pride. "And that is why I've called you here, to offer you my aid in the battles to come, and to share with you the secrets that may yet turn the tide of this war." The being waved a shimmering appendage, and a holographic display sprang to life in the air before them, a display that showed a vast, intricate network of alliances and factions, all vying for control of the galaxy. The Zorax are but one piece of a much larger puzzle, Axim explained, its voice growing more urgent as it spoke. To defeat them, you must first understand the true nature of the conflict that has engulfed this galaxy, a conflict that has its roots in an ancient, long-forgotten war between the forces of order and chaos. As Lara and her team listened, rapt with attention, Axim began to weave a tale of a galaxy torn asunder by the machinations of an ancient, malevolent intelligence, an intelligence that sought to sow discord and destruction wherever it went, pitting species against species and faction against faction in an endless cycle of war and suffering. But there is hope, Axim said, its voice growing softer and more contemplative. For just as there are those who seek to destroy and divide, there are also those who seek to heal and unite. And it is in the hands of beings like you, beings of courage and compassion, who refuse to surrender to despair or hatred, but the fate of this galaxy now rests. Lara felt a surge of emotion rising within her at Axim's words, a mixture of fear and excitement, hope and determination. She knew that the road ahead would be long and perilous, but with Axim's aid and the support of her allies, she also knew that they had a fighting chance. "We will not let you down," she said, her voice ringing out with conviction. "We will fight with everything we have to bring peace and freedom to this galaxy, no matter the cost." Axim's form pulsed with a bright, approving glow. "I know you will," it said, its voice filled with a quiet confidence. "For the sake of all the beings in this galaxy, and for the sake of the human spirit itself, I know that you will succeed." And with those words, the ancient being vanished in a flash of blinding light, leaving Lara and her team alone in the echoing chamber, but with a new sense of purpose and determination burning in their hearts. They had come to this galaxy as dreamers, but now they knew that they had the power to become something more. They had the power to become heroes and to awaken the galaxy to a new era of hope and unity. As they made their way back to their waiting ships, ready to begin the next phase of their fight against the Zorax and their allies, Lara couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the incredible journey that lay ahead of them. They had started as a small, desperate band of survivors, but now they were a force to be reckoned with allies and resources spanning the breadth of the galaxy. And with Axim's knowledge and guidance, they had the power to change the course of history itself. But even as they celebrated their newfound strength and purpose, they knew that their greatest challenges still lay ahead, challenges that would test the very limits of their courage and their humanity. For in the end, it was not the power of their weapons or the strength of their allies that would determine the outcome of this war, but the power of their own indomitable spirit and the strength of the bonds that held them together. And as they set out once more into the vast, uncharted reaches of the galaxy, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, they knew that they would never stop fighting, not until the galaxy was free, and the human spirit could once again shine like a beacon of hope in the darkness of space. Striking back. Armed with new allies, advanced technology, and Axim's guidance, Captain Lara Nova and her team of human survivors embarked on a daring campaign to strike back against the tyrannical Zorax Empire. Their plan was simple but bold: to launch a series of guerrilla raids against key Zorax outposts and supply lines, weakening the Empire's grip on the galaxy while inspiring hope and resistance among the oppressed alien races. Their first target was a heavily guarded Zorax supply depot on the edge of a massive asteroid field. The depot served as a crucial hub for the Empire's military operations in the sector and was protected by a fleet of deadly warships and a network of automated defense systems. But Lara and her team had a secret weapon, a group of Azurian energy manipulators who had volunteered to join the mission. Using their unique abilities, the Azurians were able to create a series of powerful energy shields around the team's ships, rendering them virtually invisible to the depot's sensors. As they approached the depot under cover of the asteroid field, Lara couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and trepidation. This was their first real test as a united force, a chance to prove that they could strike a meaningful blow against the Zorax and their allies. But even with the element of surprise on their side, the mission was fraught with danger. The Zorax were no ordinary foe. They were a ruthless, cunning species with a deep understanding of warfare and strategy. And as the team's ships emerged from the asteroid field and began their attack run, they found themselves facing a wall of fire from the depot's defense systems. Explosions rocked the void around them as the depot's automated turrets unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy beams, forcing the team to take evasive action. But even as they dodged and weaved through the onslaught, the Azurians' energy shields held firm, absorbing the worst of the damage and allowing the team to press their attack. With the Kelpians' organic weapons and the humans' advanced robotics, they were able to punch through the depot's outer defenses and begin a daring ground assault on the facility itself. As they fought their way through the twisting corridors and cavernous storage bays of the depot, they were met with fierce resistance from the Zorax warriors. But with the Azurians' energy shields and the humans' enhanced abilities, they were able to overcome every obstacle in their path. In the end, the depot lay in ruins, its once proud walls reduced to smoldering rubble and twisted metal. And as the team made their escape back into the asteroid field, they knew that they had struck a powerful blow against the Zorax and sent a message of hope and defiance to the oppressed peoples of the galaxy. News of their victory spread like wildfire throughout the sector, and soon other alien races began to take notice. The Phantoms, once content to watch from the shadows, began to take a more active role in the growing resistance, sharing their advanced technology and knowledge with the humans and their allies. Other species, too, began to flock to the cause, species like the Zephyrians, a race of avian warriors renowned for their lightning-fast ships and their mastery of the skies. With each new ally, the resistance grew stronger and more diverse, united by a common desire for freedom and a shared hatred of the Zorax. But even as they celebrated their victories and welcomed new allies into their ranks, Lara and her team knew that the Zorax would not take their defiance lightly. The Empire had a long history of crushing resistance and rebellion with brutal efficiency, and they would stop at nothing to maintain their grip on the galaxy. And so the raids continued, each one bolder and more daring than the last. The team struck at Zorax weapons factories and research facilities, sabotaged their supply lines and communication networks, and even launched daring rescue missions to free enslaved alien races from the Empire's clutches. With each victory, the legend of the human resistance grew, and with it, the fear and anger of the Zorax. The Empire began to view the small band of rebels as a serious threat to their power, and they responded with all the brutality and ruthlessness that had made them the scourge of the galaxy. Bounties were placed on the heads of Lara and her team, and Zorax assassins and bounty hunters began to dog their every step. The team found themselves constantly on the move, never staying in one place for too long, always looking over their shoulders for signs of pursuit. But even as the danger grew, so too did their resolve. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to turn back now, and with each new challenge, they only grew stronger and more determined. And then, just when it seemed that they had finally gained the upper hand, disaster struck. The team was ambushed by a massive Zorax fleet during a raid on a key military installation, a fleet led by none other than the Zorax Queen herself. The Queen, a monstrous, chitinous creature with a cruel, cunning intelligence, had grown tired of the rebels' defiance and had vowed to crush them once and for all. The battle that followed was unlike anything the team had ever experienced before. The Zorax ships were faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than anything they had encountered before, and the Queen's flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons and armor, seemed all but invincible. As the team's ships were battered and broken by the relentless onslaught, Lara could feel a sense of despair creeping into her heart. They had come so far, fought so hard, but in the face of such overwhelming odds, what hope did they have? But even as the battle seemed lost, a miracle occurred. A massive, shimmering portal suddenly appeared in the midst of the fighting, a portal that swallowed up the Zorax fleet and scattered them to the far reaches of the galaxy. And as the team watched in amazement, a familiar figure emerged from the portal, Axim, the ancient phantom who had guided them on their journey. "Do not despair, my friends," Axim said, its voice echoing through the void with a power and authority that sent shivers down their spines. "For even in the darkest of times, there is always hope." With Axim's aid, the team was able to regroup and recover from the ambush, and to plan their next move. They knew that they could not hope to defeat the Zorax through brute force alone. They needed a new strategy, one that would strike at the very heart of the Empire's power. And so, guided by Axim's wisdom and the knowledge they had gained from their phantom allies, they began to formulate a plan that would take them deep into the heart of Zorax space, to the very throne world of the Queen herself. It was a plan that would require all of their skill, all of their courage, and all of their determination, but it was a plan that they knew they had to try. For the sake of the galaxy, for the sake of the oppressed and the enslaved, and for the sake of the human spirit itself, they had to succeed. As they made their preparations and gathered their allies for the final push, Lara couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come, and on the incredible journey that still lay ahead of them. They had started as lost, desperate survivors, but now they were a force to be reckoned with, a shining beacon of hope and defiance in a galaxy consumed by darkness and despair. And with Axim's guidance and the strength of their own indomitable spirit, they knew that they could face any challenge and emerge victorious. But even as they looked to the future with hope and determination, they knew that their greatest trial still lay ahead, a trial that would test the very limits of their courage and their resolve. For in the end, it was not the strength of their ships or the power of their weapons that would determine the outcome of this war, but the strength of their own hearts and the power of the bonds that held them together. And as they set out on the final leg of their journey, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, they knew that they would never stop fighting, not until the galaxy was free and the human spirit could once again shine like a beacon of hope in the darkness of space. The enduring spirit. As Captain Lara Nova and her team of human survivors made their final preparations for the assault on the Zorax throne world, they knew that they were about to embark on the most important mission of their lives. The fate of the entire galaxy hung in the balance, and the outcome of the battle would determine the future of not only their own species, but of every sentient being in the universe. But even as they steeled themselves for the challenges ahead, they knew that they could not do it alone. They needed the support and the strength of every ally they had gathered, and they needed to inspire hope and courage in the hearts of the oppressed and the enslaved. And so, with Axim's guidance and the help of their phantom allies, they began to broadcast a message of hope and defiance across the galaxy, a message that would reach every corner of the universe and touch the hearts of every being who heard it. "People of the galaxy," Lara said, her voice ringing out strong and clear across the airwaves. "For too long we have lived in fear and despair, crushed beneath the heel of the Zorax Empire and its allies. For too long we have been told that resistance is futile, that we are weak and helpless and alone." She paused, her eyes blazing with a fierce, unwavering determination. "But I am here to tell you that this is not true. We are not weak, and we are not helpless, and we are certainly not alone." As she spoke, images began to flash across the screens of every ship and every world in the galaxy. Images of the human survivors and their allies fighting and struggling against impossible odds. Images of the Kelpians and their organic weapons, of the Azurians and their energy shields, of the Zephyrians and their lightning-fast ships. And as the images played out, Lara's voice continued to ring out, strong and clear and full of hope. "Look at us," she said. "Look at what we have accomplished against all odds. Look at the strength and the courage and the determination that we have shown in the face of overwhelming adversity." She paused again, her eyes shining with a fierce, unwavering light. "And know that this same strength, this same courage, this same determination, it lives within each and every one of you. It is the enduring spirit of all sentient beings, the unquenchable flame that burns within us all, no matter how dark the night may seem. As her words echoed across the galaxy, something incredible began to happen. On world after world, in system after system, the oppressed and the enslaved began to rise up, began to shake off the chains of their bondage, and to take up arms against their oppressors. The Zorax and their allies were caught off guard by the sudden surge of resistance, and as they scrambled to respond, the human survivors and their allies struck. With Axim's help, they were able to open a massive portal in the heart of the Zorax throne world, a portal that allowed them to bypass the planet's formidable defenses and to land their forces directly in the heart of the enemy's stronghold. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. The human survivors and their allies fought with a ferocity and a determination that stunned even the most hardened Zorax warriors, and as they pushed deeper and deeper into the heart of the enemy's fortress, they began to realize that victory was within their grasp. But even as they fought and struggled and bled, they knew that their true strength lay not in their weapons or their ships, but in the unbreakable bonds that held them together. They fought not just for themselves, but for each other, for the dream of a galaxy free from oppression and tyranny, where all beings could live in peace and harmony. And as the battle raged on, as the Zorax throne world burned and crumbled around them, Laura and her team never lost sight of that dream. They fought with a courage and a selflessness that inspired all those who witnessed it, and as they finally stood victorious atop the ruins of the Zorax palace, they knew that they had achieved something truly incredible. But even as they celebrated their victory, they knew that their work was far from over. The Zorax Empire had been defeated, but there were still countless other threats out there, waiting in the shadows. There were still countless worlds in need of liberation, countless beings crying out for freedom and justice. And so, even as they tended to their wounds and mourned their fallen comrades, Laura and her team knew that they could not rest, not yet. They had a responsibility, a sacred duty, to continue the fight, to spread the message of hope and defiance to every corner of the galaxy. And as they set out once again into the vast, uncharted reaches of space, they did so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. They were no longer just survivors. They were the guardians and protectors of all sentient life, the shining beacons of hope in a galaxy that had been too long without it. As the news of their victory spread like wildfire across the stars, they began to hear stories of other resistance movements taking root, of other beings, inspired by their example, rising up to challenge their oppressors and claim their birthright of freedom. And as they listened to these stories, as they watched the galaxy begin to change and transform before their very eyes, Laura and her team knew that they had been a part of something truly special, something that would be remembered and celebrated for generations to come. They had started as lost and broken survivors, cast adrift in a hostile and uncaring universe. But through their courage and their determination, through the strength of their bonds and the power of their dreams, they had become something so much more. They had become the stuff of legend, the heroes that the galaxy had been waiting for, the ones who would light the way to a brighter and more hopeful future. And as they stood there on the bridge of their ship, watching the stars drift by outside the viewport, Laura couldn't help but smile. They had done it. They had accomplished the impossible and had freed the galaxy from the clutches of tyranny and oppression. But even as they basked in the glow of their triumph, she knew that their journey was far from over. There were still so many challenges ahead, so many battles to be fought, so many beings in need of their help. But she also knew that they would face those challenges together, as a team, as a family, as the unbreakable bond of human spirit and determination that had carried them through so much already. And so, as the ship prepared to make the jump to hyperspace, Lara took one last look at the stars outside the viewport, at the infinite possibilities that lay ahead of them, waiting to be explored and discovered. "Let's go," she said, her voice filled with a quiet, unwavering resolve. "The galaxy needs heroes, not dreamers. It's time for us to get back to work." And with those words, the ship leaped forward into the vast, uncharted reaches of space, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, and to keep fighting for the dream of a galaxy free from oppression and fear. For they were the enduring spirit of humanity, the unquenchable flame that would never be extinguished, no matter how dark the night might seem. And as long as they kept that flame burning bright, there was nothing they couldn't accomplish, no challenge they couldn't overcome, no dream they couldn't make real. They were the heroes that the galaxy needed, and they would never stop fighting for what they believed in, no matter the cost. Turning the tide. In the aftermath of their historic victory against the Zorax Empire, Captain Laura Nova and her team of human survivors found themselves at a crossroads. They had struck a powerful blow for freedom and justice, but they knew that the war was far from over. There were still countless other threats out there, waiting in the shadows, and they would need all of their strength, all of their courage, and all of their determination to keep fighting the good fight. And so, as they began to plan their next move, they turned once again to Axiom, the ancient and enigmatic being who had been their guide and their mentor throughout their long and perilous journey. With its vast knowledge and its unparalleled understanding of the complex web of alliances and rivalries that made up the galaxy, Axiom was uniquely positioned to help them chart a course forward, to identify new allies and new opportunities in the ongoing struggle against tyranny and oppression. And as they delved deeper into the secrets that Axiom had to share, they began to realize just how much they still had to learn, and just how much more there was to the story of the galaxy than they had ever imagined. They learned of ancient and powerful civilizations that had risen and fallen long before the Zorax had ever emerged from their primordial swamps, of vast and intricate networks of trade and diplomacy that had connected the stars for countless millennia, and of hidden worlds and lost treasures that had been waiting for eons to be rediscovered. And as they listened to Axiom's tales of wonder and discovery, they began to feel a sense of awe and excitement that they had never known before. They had always known that the galaxy was a vast and mysterious place, but now they were beginning to understand just how truly incredible and awe-inspiring it really was. But even as they marveled at the wonders that Axiom had to share, they knew that they could not afford to rest on their laurels. They had won a great victory, to be sure, but they also knew that the Zorax would not take their defeat lying down. Even now, the remnants of the once mighty empire were regrouping and rearming, preparing to strike back against the heroes who had brought them to their knees. And so, with Axiom's guidance, Lara and her team began to put together a plan that would allow them to strike at the very heart of the Zorax's remaining power and to finish the job that they had started. The key, Axiom explained, was a hidden vulnerability in the Zorax's central command hub, a flaw in their systems that could be exploited to throw their entire network into chaos and to open the door for a devastating final assault. But getting to that command hub would be no easy feat. It was hidden away in the depths of a remote and heavily fortified star system, protected by layer upon layer of defenses and security measures. And even if they could somehow breach those defenses, they would still have to contend with the Zorax's most elite warriors, the fanatically loyal and utterly ruthless guards who had sworn to defend their queen to the death. It was a daunting prospect, to say the least, but Lara and her team had faced impossible odds before, and they had always found a way to come out on top. And so, with Axiom's help, they began to put together a plan, a daring and audacious gambit that would require every ounce of their skill, their courage, and their determination. They started by reaching out to their allies, to the Kelpians and the Azurians and the Zephyrians, and to all the other races and factions that they had befriended in their long and perilous journey. They shared with them the knowledge that Axiom had given them, the secret vulnerability in the Zorax's defenses, and the opportunity that it represented. And to their amazement and delight, they found that their allies were more than willing to join them in this final decisive battle. The Kelpians pledged their organic ships and their psionic powers, the Azurians offered their energy shields and their mastery of the electromagnetic spectrum, and the Zephyrians promised their lightning-fast fighters and their unparalleled skill in the art of hit-and-run warfare. Other races, too, rallied to their cause, races that had once been enemies, but had now become allies in the face of a greater threat. The Phantoms, long aloof and isolated, emerged from their hidden strongholds to offer their ancient wisdom and their unparalleled mastery of stealth and deception. And the Quixari, a fierce and proud warrior race that had once fought against the humans, now pledged their blades and their lives to the cause of freedom and justice. Together, this unlikely alliance set out to do the impossible, to breach the Zorax's defenses, to infiltrate their central command, and to strike a blow that would shatter their empire once and for all. The journey to the Zorax's hidden star system was long and perilous, fraught with danger and uncertainty at every turn. But Lara and her team were undaunted. They had faced worse odds before, and they had always emerged victorious. And now, with the strength of their allies at their backs and the wisdom of action to guide them, they knew that they could do the same again. As they made their final approach to the Zorax's defenses, they could see the full scale of the challenge that awaited them. The star system was a veritable fortress, bristling with weapons and shields and sensor arrays, a seemingly impregnable bastion that had withstood every assault and every invasion for countless generations. But Lara and her team had a few tricks up their sleeves, tricks that the Zorax had never seen before and could never have anticipated. With the help of the Phantoms, they were able to slip past the outer defenses undetected, using their mastery of stealth and deception to evade the Zorax's sensors and their patrols. And once they were inside, they unleashed the full power of their combined forces. The Kelpians and the Azurians worked together to create a massive electromagnetic pulse that scrambled the Zorax's systems and threw their defenses into chaos, while the Zephyrians and the Quixari launched a devastating assault on their command centers and their supply lines. In the midst of this chaos and confusion, Lara and her team made their move. With Axum's guidance, they were able to locate the central command hub, the nerve center of the Zorax's entire empire, and the key to their final defeat. But getting to that command hub would be no easy feat. It was guarded by the Zorax's most elite warriors, the infamous Praetorian Guard, who had sworn to defend their queen to the death. And as Lara and her team fought their way through the twisting corridors and the cavernous chambers of the command center, they found themselves locked in a desperate battle for survival against an enemy that would never surrender and never back down. It was a battle that would test them to their very limits, a battle that would push them beyond anything they had ever faced before. And as they fought and struggled and bled, they began to realize that this was more than just another mission, more than just another battle in an endless war. This was a moment of truth, a moment that would define the fate of the entire galaxy and the future of every sentient being within it. And as they stood there, surrounded by the flames and the wreckage of the command center, they knew that they had to make it count. With one final, desperate push, they managed to break through the Praetorian Guard's defenses and to reach the heart of the command hub. And there, in the center of it all, they found the Zorax Queen herself, the monstrous, chitinous creature that had been the source of so much suffering and oppression for so long. The battle that followed was unlike anything that Lara and her team had ever experienced before. The Queen was a formidable foe, possessed of a strength and a savagery that seemed almost supernatural. And even with all of their combined power and skill, they found themselves hard-pressed to keep up with her relentless onslaught. But in the end, it was Lara who struck the final blow. With a last desperate lunge, she managed to drive her blade deep into the Queen's heart, and as she watched the monstrous creature shudder and convulse in its death throes, she felt a sense of grim satisfaction wash over her. They had done it. They had struck the blow that would finally bring an end to the Zorax's reign of terror, and in doing so, they had secured the future of the galaxy for generations to come. As they emerged from the smoldering ruins of the command center, they were greeted by a scene of utter chaos and confusion. The Zorax's forces were in disarray, their once mighty fleet scattered and broken, their armies routed and defeated. And as the news of their victory spread like wildfire across the stars, they watched in amazement as the tide of the war began to turn. Everywhere they looked, they saw the once oppressed races of the galaxy rising up against their former masters, saw them casting off the shackles of their enslavement, and taking up arms in the name of freedom and justice. It was a moment of triumph and exultation, a moment that they had dreamed of for so long, but had never dared to hope would actually come to pass. And as they stood there, basking in the glow of their victory and the adulation of the liberated masses, they knew that they had been a part of something truly incredible, something that would be remembered and celebrated for generations to come. But even as they savored their triumph, they knew that their work was far from over. The Zorax had been defeated, it was true, but there were still so many other threats out there, waiting in the shadows. There were still so many worlds in need of their help, so many beings crying out for justice and deliverance. And so, as they set out once again into the vast, uncharted reaches of space, they did so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. They were no longer just survivors. They were the guardians and protectors of all sentient life, the shining beacons of hope in a galaxy that had been too long without it. They were the heroes that the galaxy needed, the ones who would never stop fighting for what they believed in, no matter the cost. And as long as they kept the flame of that belief burning bright, they knew that there was nothing they couldn't accomplish, no challenge they couldn't overcome, no dream they couldn't make real. And so, as the stars streaked by outside the viewport of their ship, Lara and her team looked out at the infinite possibilities that lay ahead of them, at the countless worlds and civilizations that were waiting to be explored and discovered, at the endless wonders and marvels that the galaxy had to offer. "Let's go," she said, her voice filled with a quiet, unwavering resolve. "The future is waiting for us, and we've got a lot of work to do." With those words, the ship leaped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, and to keep fighting for the dream of a galaxy free from oppression and fear. For they were the enduring spirit of humanity, the unquenchable flame that would never be extinguished, no matter how dark the night might seem. And as long as they kept that flame burning bright, there was nothing they couldn't accomplish, no challenge they couldn't overcome, no dream they couldn't make real. They were the heroes that the galaxy needed, and they would never stop fighting for what they believed in, no matter the cost. And as the stars streaked by outside the viewport, Lara knew that their journey was far from over, that there were still so many more adventures waiting for them, so many more battles to be fought and won. But she also knew that they would face those adventures and those battles together, as a team, as a family, as the unbreakable bond of human spirit and determination that had carried them through so much already. And so, with a smile on her face and a fire in her heart, she turned to her crew and spoke the words that would guide them through all the challenges and all the triumphs to come. "Let's go, everyone," she said. "The galaxy needs heroes, not dreamers. It's time to get to work."